All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us on the Buddy Fun podcast series. I am here with Angie Yarbrough. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes,
Okay, great. So first off, Angie, can you introduce yourself to the viewers and what you do with your organization and what that organization is?
sure. My name is Angie Yarbrough, as Jay said, and I am the head of school at the Freedom School. And the Freedom School is a Christian mission school in the city of St. Louis. I've been here 7 years, and our school's objective is to make Christian education accessible to anyone who wants to pursue it. Many times, families cannot afford, $1,000, $2,000 a month tuition, which is a typical private school cost. And so many of our families pay as little as $50 a month for tuition expense
Okay, great.
because
So
we're supported by donors.
gotcha. So speaking of donors, I want to talk a little bit about your organization's relationship to the Buddy Fund. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but how does the
Mhm.
Buddy Fund impact your school and organization as a whole?
Yeah. So the Buddy Fund, part of what we do is we guide students so that they can be reconciled first to God, to self as well, meaning be at peace with who they are and who God has made them, and also be reconciled to those in their community, whether it's just their friends, neighbors, schoolmates, or developing the skills that will lead them to be reconcilers in the broader community and world later on in life. So that involves training their mind, body, and soul. The Christian school aspect, of course, addresses the soul, the fact that we're a school, it's in the mind. And then the body is really important as well, because as I know now, because my sciatica's acting up, when your body's not right, you're off kilter. And so we're teaching our kids to have healthy bodies through exercise. And the Buddy Fund has been providing um, physical equipment for us for our PE program and after school activities program for the 7 years I've been here. And I'm not sure how much longer before then, but it was a little while before then as well, also. So they make sure that our kids are learning about how to take care of their bodies so that they can be strong, so that they can think clearly, so that they can be healthy and be contributing members of society.
Awesome. So, for a personal testimony, I want to ask you a little bit about how you got involved and what your interest is and kind of giving back because your school does a lot for the youth and the community here in St. Louis. So, what makes you what drives you to do this stuff and what is so special about your organization?
Yeah, so it's funny. When I was in high school, I think I was pretty much like a lot of high schools. I was pretty self-centered. And there was this young woman named Vicky Reeves who just really impressed me because she was kind to everyone. Can you believe that? A high schooler? And she just let people know they were welcome and that they were seen. And that was really important. And she helped me in particular because I wanted to run track. And she encouraged me to run track. She even went out with me several times to try to increase my stamina. And she helped me when I was bemoaning the fact that I wasn't quite as fast as I thought I
Hmm.
was and lost or came in unimpressive rankings in the track meets. But I remember her because she taught me about seeing people outside of myself and not just my peer group, but recognizing other people have challenges, they have hurts, they have needs, and that all the people around them can actually help them. And I wasn't accustomed to thinking of myself and my peers in that way when I was a high schooler again. So, kind of fast forward a little bit, I went to college, went to the business school at Washington University, and started taking English classes and told my dad, I think I'm going to change my major to English. And he said, why would you do that? What are you going to be a teacher? And he said that in a way that we just knew saying, yeah, was not a good idea. So I said, oh, yeah, I guess that's a bad idea. So I went ahead and got a degree in business. But then I went back to Washington University to work. I homeschooled my kids. I ended up working in a program for high school dropouts, which doesn't exist anymore here in St. Louis. But that's where I learned about poverty. And I learned that if children are having trouble in school, a lot of times it's got nothing to do with what's going on in the school building and everything to do about the other aspects of their lives. So I got to see that poverty and homelessness, um, job insecurity, housing insecurity, food scarcity, all of those things just weren't easy to fix for many of our students. And in particular, I became very familiar with the study of trauma and how that affects students, trauma that's caused by divorce or violence in the neighborhood, um, homelessness, neglect, you name it. A lot of our kids have that these days, and schools aren't doing a very good job of really addressing that need. Now, there's a lot of talk about trauma these days in school. Most schools are trauma informed, but there's not a lot of real practice, which requires knowing students much more intimately than they typically get in the classroom. At the Freedom School, we have 15 students per class because we know that in order to really develop a relationship with each one of the students, the teacher is going to have room to breathe, frankly,
Yeah.
but also just the emotional and mental space to assess the child, get to know them, and find what their real needs are. So as I saw that need in the program for high school dropouts, and I saw the effect of their home lives on children, I just naturally started to yearn for a school that could really address these things. And it was very frustrating looking around, even at some of the better public schools, that they were just kind of not addressing student needs. So when the opportunity came to apply for this position at the Freedom School, I really just jumped on it. And it's a real privilege to be in a place where, without any political baggage, without any school board having to vote on it, we can just do what students need. The Freedom School is 90% donor funded. So our tuition expense each year is about $10,000 per student, and we only have, I think, one family that pays that amount, and the rest are on some kind of scholarship, all the way down to $50 a month. It's income based. And so when we see that students need food, we have a food ministry we draw upon. When we see they have clothing, we do the same thing. We work really closely with our parent church, New City Fellowship, to provide some of those things. When parents need transportation, we engage other parents to help, because also when families come here, we let them know that this is a community. And for many families struggling with poverty, the concept of community is totally foreign.
Mhm.
You know, when I grew up, my grandparents were pretty poor, and I didn't even know it because our lives were rich. We had good friends, we always had good food, we had good times. And it was because we were part of a community, our physical community, but also our church community, which was in the physical community. And I find that parents living in poverty now don't usually have a community. They're frightened in their homes. They're scared to reach out and trust other people. And so being part of a community is new to them. But they quickly step up to the charge. They recognize that they're receiving a great deal, and they're anxious to share as well. So when someone needs a ride, we call a parent nearby and say, "Hey, so and so's car broke down, we need you to go by and pick up their kid," and they're happy to do that. You know, when there's an illness, they're happy to cook. We eat way too much here. They're always blessing the teachers with snacks and treats, and just that opportunity to be a part of a community is very appealing to families who may themselves be very far away from their families, or maybe single parenting. So again, just wrapping arms around the whole child and their family is very useful to us, and very productive for the student, because then they're in a healthy space where they're eating right, they're getting good exercise, they're learning, they're starting to feel good about themselves, but they're also learning how they can be agents of change in their world. You know, the last 5 years in this country have taught us one thing. It is that we need people who know how to reconcile. And by reconcile, I mean restoring right relationship. We tell the kids it's making enemies into friends, right? And I wish I could take my lessons up to Washington, D.C. and sit in the halls of Congress. But We need to learn how to speak to each other respectfully, to disagree respectfully, and then to work towards solutions respectfully together. And that takes caring for each other. And so we're sending out kids who honestly know more about problem solving and reconciliation than many of the adults who will be in their high schools and their colleges that they attend. But the good news is they're taking what they learned. And I hear from some of our graduates sometimes that they go and they say, oh, well, our president of our college was doing this. And I told them, you know, our immigrant kids are not feeling included in this because we've neglected, you know, to provide translation service or to provide transportation.
Mm.
And so then that gets acknowledged and it gets dealt with because most of the time they're just oversights that we see of people in our community. And that kind of winds back to Victoria Reeves, doesn't it? That we're not really seeing each other. We're just kind of filling blocks of this is an immigrant, this is a black person, this is a white person, this is a poor person, this is a rich person. And that makes it easy for us to manage. But really, we've got to take the risks and take those categories off and actually start to see individuals
Yeah.
and what they need. And so the Buddy Fund actually helps us to do that because a lot of kids come to school for PE and recess, if I have to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So we need to make sure they have basketballs, hula hoops, scoot carts, a good variety of games and programs and weights and things that teach them not just how to take care of their bodies, but how to be part of a team and how to develop habits that are going to serve them well for their lifetime. That was a pretty long answer, wasn't it?
Oh, no, that's okay. I really appreciate you sharing all that. But I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about I guess, the end result of all this, because, like you said, you're doing a lot of stuff for these kids, and the Buddy Fund is helping you provide, this equipment. But from your personal view, like when kids come back, you talked about, they talked the college aspect, and they're talking to their president. But what does that mean for you? What does that kind of like show you about your school and what you're doing and how the Buddy Fund's helping? But everything that you're doing at this level, how is that impacting kids' lives and their future, and kind of benefiting the community as a whole? Because as you were talking a little bit about, with this organization that you have and the school that you have, it's benefiting them for the future. So
Mhm.
overall, what would you say is the impact of your school and Buddy Fund's relationship with it? But how are kids being benefited to better our world?
Yeah, so our kids are going to be better spouses because they know about conflict resolution. You know, I have a little picture that I keep in my office posted about asking forgiveness and the 5 A's, we call them. I guess you can hear the siren out there,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay.
But sometimes I tell parents to take a picture of it because it works in marriage also. Also works on your job, in your neighborhood, just about really seeking to be reconciled to someone. So they're going to have that skill and they're going to be so much better trained to encounter every human relationship. And if they see people, first of all, that's the first step is actually seeing the people who are around you and discarding those broad categories that we think define us and really seeing people as individuals, but also then knowing how when we trample each other's toes, which always happens, you know, you're a human being. It certainly happens in elementary school, but it's going to happen all the way up. You're going to offend someone, you're going to hurt someone's feeling. How to go about making that right and restoring the relationship, and then moving on to build a community of trust that's not just based on sound bites or perceptions, but based on actual working together. And so when I hear stories like that about students who or there was one dramatic story. It was crazy. A student came to us. The parents had separated. We're in the middle of a divorce, and they were with us 2 years. And then at the end of the second year, I started seeing dad. First, mom was just coming around because the girls were staying with her. And then I mentioned to mom, "Hey, I saw the kid's dad. You know, are you guys working on relationship or what?" And she said, "Yeah, my daughter kept bringing home those lessons in reconciliation, and we started reading them, and it really taught us something about what we should be doing in our own home, and I was like, "Whoa." Here's an 8-year-old being a marriage counselor,
Yeah.
and that family is back together because of the lessons that child learned and how the parent they're really fundamental lessons,
Yeah.
about how to treat people. And if you apply them, they've got to affect you at the deepest, deepest level.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so the last kind of question I have for you, you were talking a lot about donors and the Buddy Fund. We were talking a little bit about that. But for those listening, is there any way that people in the community can help out? For one, your like school and organization, but also just in general, the things that you're talking about. What do you
Yeah,
suggest people and viewers to do to impact the community to better our future? Like 5, 10 years down the road, our future is coming. So, what are some things that you suggest that
that's
you've seen
right.
from your experience? What can the viewers do?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, we need help. We exist. We're 90% donor funded, so we always need financial assistance. But we also need the assistance of tutors, cafeteria workers, family mentors, transportation. Those wraparound services are almost exclusively provided by volunteers for us, and we're so grateful for that. It allows us to commit the funds we have to the real hard academic expenses. Um, but also, just as a society, I believe that it's important for us to do what I just said, to set aside our categories, whether it's Republican, Democrat, whatever, and see each other clearly. To get involved in each other's lives, to get out of your comfort zone. It's amazing. I have to admit, I didn't have any real relationships with poor people until I came to the Gateway to College program. And then I started to realize that poverty was not something that could be solved by sound bites, that these were real people with really complex problems. And so I think if we trouble ourselves to get to know someone who's poor, who's having a difficult time, more than just giving them something, but maybe going to their home or family event or giving them a ride. Car time is a great time to get to know people because you don't have to look at them. So if things become awkward, you can just keep talking and driving, turn up the radio. I don't know. But we've got to become engaged in each other's lives. We've
Yeah.
got to stop being lazy about what we believe and then challenge our beliefs of whoever the other is, whether that is someone who's a different race, different socioeconomic class, different political division, whatever. We've got to just take that extra step. And so that's what I would encourage people to do and to be committed and to not run away when it gets messy because there are many parts of people who live in poverty's lives which get very messy and they're not pretty to look at. But if you really are trying to love someone, you have to look at them, warts and all,
Yeah.
and be willing to stay right there and say, I'm with you. I may not even agree with what you're doing or how you're doing it, but I'm still your friend, and I want to have that privilege of still speaking into your life.
All right.
And so when we get to that, some of us haven't done that with our own relatives. When I came to the Freedom School, it really cast a light on how I had treated a couple of my relatives who were drug addicts.
Mhm.
And that's really about as messy as it gets, right?
Right.
And I had to go and just really open the door that had been shut
Yeah.
and say, hey, cousin, let's
Mhm.
be Facebook friends or how you
Right.
doing? Happy birthday, happy anniversary. What's going on in your life? And to my surprise, they really appreciated that. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing for your life, but I do know that it pleases them to be connected to a member of the family because a couple of them, both of them actually told me, no one else in the family have anything to do with me. And that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. If we can't reach our own families despite their mess, how are we going to reach this society that's very messy?
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of great stuff that you provided me. Thank you again, Angie, for all this and giving me your time.
Yeah,
I
sure.
there's so many great messages that I can't even sum up right now, but I want to thank the viewers for kind of listening to your story and just sharing the impact that you have for the community and the Buddy Fund what we do to help you guys. And it really is kind of cool how we can impact the community in so many different ways, whether it be the sports or what you guys are doing with your school. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
And I
Thank
will
you.
kind of, if you're okay with it, I'll give your email and maybe a phone number down below so people can reach out to you
Sure.
and volunteer, like you said, because really what goes around comes around. If people are helping out, then the world
Oh,
can be a
they'll be
better
blessed
place.
also.
Right. So thank you so much, and thank you for the viewers
All right.
for tuning in. So we'll see you guys on the next episode.